All right, next up, Matt, we played Nations.
Right.
You thought I was going to say the dice game, but I did not.
No, you did not. And that was a game I was expecting last time. But it was designed by Rustan Håkansson, Nina Håkansson, Einar Rosén, and Robert Rosén. And the art was by Ossi Hiekkala. Sorry. Oh, wow. Jere, Kasanen, Paul Laane, and Frida Lögdberg.
These are all the artists?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize I had that many artists.
Yeah. Sorry, I butchered about 3 of their names. Those are...
I don't know if this is disrespect, but I'm going to say that all the artists, I think they did a good job because it blends in really well.
Yeah, you can't tell it was, 4?
Yeah,
Right.
I couldn't tell. I mean, all the artwork looks really... I mean, the art's good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like... The graphic design's kind of lacking.
Right.
It's not very, engaging, I guess, but it's adequate. It works.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, all the art seems pretty fine, and I couldn't tell you that it was 4 people.
Yeah, but published by Asmodee.
Yeah. Was it?
That's what it said.
Well, it's probably... It says something else on the box. What does that say?
Oh, it sure does. Look at that.
It's the same publisher as the dice game, obviously. I think that Asmodee, they just kind of come out through America.
Yeah,
with Asmodee.
it's sold through them or whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, it says Lautapelit. I don't know how it's pronounced. It's .fl. Was that Finland? I don't know.
This is very Nordic. There was a lot of the what are they called? Unglots, the double dots over O's.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that. So that's why. Sorry on the names.
Well, now we butchered all this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk about the game.
Yes.
Nations, the dice game. If you ever watched our top 10 favorite games on the Dice Tower, was in my top 10. It rose very quickly. I think we played it at Origins in July or whatever, and literally we filmed it in October. So in that span of time, I was enamored by this game.
Right.
Played it so much, man. So much that...
You forgot what you were going to say?
Yeah. Anyway, so... anyway, we played it a lot.
Yeah.
And so I always thought, I want to play the actual game, because after reading about it and watching a review, I was like, obviously there's no dice, but it's a lot longer, but it seems like it's the same game, but more. And it really is. It's essentially, obviously I'm coming from the opposite direction. I played the dice game first, and then we moved on and played Nations. It's not like I played Nations and went to the dice game like a lot of people.
Right.
The game is much longer. I mean, you can play Nations 4 players and explain it within an hour for the most part. And this game took us 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 with the explanation. Mm-hmm. It's a very long game. Thankfully, it doesn't feel long.
Well, you said what? It says 45 minutes a player?
It's 40 minutes a player, yeah. And I mean, for the most part, we went a little bit above that. For the first time playing it, I feel like that's acceptable. But the second part about it is that we were kind of...
We also stopped for a break and...
Oh, we did, yeah.
We ate.
Yeah, we ate. It was about 30 minutes or so. But we were a little experienced with the game, sort of, because Nations does... The dice game is very reminiscent of it.
Right.
So anyway, in Nations, it's a civilization builder, but it really doesn't play like most of the Civ games out there. If you're not familiar with the dice game, or you've never heard of Nations, here's a quick little overview. You got 2 boards in the middle. One has a bunch of scoring stuff on it. The second board actually has a big grid that you play cards on, that cards populate. There's columns and rows. And essentially there's 7 or 8 rows. Depending on the number of players that you have, you fill out, at least so many. And then there's some that are marked for 4 or 5. I'm pretty sure 4 and 5 players. I think 3 you play with the rest. Anyway, and then everybody has a player board. You do have different nations that you can play, or you can play the opposite side, or side A actually has nothing. It's just everybody's the same. Side B is the nation. We played side A, so everybody was very equal. It's a more competitive game because everybody's playing on the same ground. Whereas the opposite side, you have special abilities that might dictate or sway you into a strategy.
Right.
Which is fine, but it's less competitive because things might not be going that way for you anyway. And so you're like, well, my best strategy is to go this route, but all those cards aren't coming out. Mm-hmm. So moving on though, you basically have one action on your turn, and then it goes around and around and around and you can keep going until you pass. And one of the actions is to take a card from that middle board, and you play the game over 4 ages. So in the first age, you've got only cards from age 1, which is like antiquity.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, the cards are themed. There's like, battles that you can fight, which gives you resources, or there's colonies that you can take over. They're green cards. They're essentially just color coded. There's orange cards, which are advisors. Anyway, you take one of these. To take it, though, it costs you gold equal to 1, 2, or 3, depending on if it's on the bottom row, middle row, or top row. You start with resources, obviously, so you can do this stuff. You take that card, you put it on your board, you pay its cost or whatever in gold, and that's your action. Say it comes back around to you and you took a blue card. Well, the blue cards, you can actually put workers on, so you can spend another action to actually put a worker on it. You start with so many workers, and you can acquire more later on at a hefty cost. They end up costing you resources every round and such. And you put guys on it. They generate the resources, unlike the dice game where you roll and you gain the resources based on your dice.
Right.
There's other cards that you can pick and things. And essentially, once everybody passes, the round marker moves up and you reset some things. You don't put more, you put more cards out there, and the cards that were left over kind of get cheaper. And then you play again. And then at the end of that round, that's the end of the age. So you play each age twice, and there's 4 ages. So there's essentially 2, 4, 6, 8 rounds.
Right.
At the end of 8 rounds, whoever has the most points, victory points, wins. You get victory points by fighting battles, I think.
Pretty much everything at the end.
Yeah, pretty much everything. A lot of cards will give you points if you got...
Well, it's what, a 10-to-1 ratio on a lot of it.
Yeah, all your resources kind of combine together, and you get divided by 10. That's how many points you get from that. It's very minor on that. That's kind of like a secondary thing just to give you points for all the stuff you have left over.
Right.
But the meat of the game in the point system comes from like your blue cards and your red cards. If you got guys on them, they're worth a lot of points based on how many guys you have. There's wonders that you complete. They actually take multiple rounds of getting these architects to complete them. Those are worth a lot of points sometimes, and they have other conditions that might give you more points. Yeah,
the books.
The books, yeah. Every round you might collect some books. Some of the resources that it give you, like your buildings, will give you books, which I guess is like knowledge. Mm-hmm. And you go up on this track around the board, and for every other player that you're above, you get 1 point more than them. Or sorry, no, you get 1 point per person you're above.
Right.
So if you're the highest and you're in a 4-player game, you get 3 victory points, and then the next person might get 2. Unless they're on top of each other, then they both just get 1 because they're above 1 person.
Right.
There's some other things. You can actually start a war. There's a card that you can pick. It's black. You pick a war, and it sets the fight, basically. It puts a little black cube on the fight track because everybody's fight is like calculated by how many workers they have on their red cards, which are essentially like infantry and barracks and things like that. And so you could start a war, and if you don't equal or exceed that amount of fight at the end of the round, or at the end of the age, then you suffer really bad things.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's each round. So it happens twice each age. Anyway, I won't go too much into it. There's more rules. Obviously, it's a big game. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's very involved, but it's not too involved. I think it's not as complicated as I thought it was going to be in comparison to the dice game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that?
I thought it played pretty much exactly like the dice game, just no dice, and it was longer.
Yeah, so it's a trade-off. I feel like it's awesome, but if I want to play Nations and I don't have 4 hours or 5 hours, play the dice game.
Right.
You get very similar feels out of it. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing I complained about the dice game. I was like, man, I wish it was a little longer. Obviously, it's a lot longer.
There's no in between here.
Yeah, but at the same time, I love it. It's great. Now, there are the war thing I was just talking about. I capitalized on that very quickly, and I think it affected you guys a lot more because it was our first play.
Mm-hmm.
But that is punishing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do not win a war, or if you don't defend against a war, which it's easy to overcome. I think a couple rounds, maybe no one saw that, but I don't remember who did it, but they grabbed a war immediately, and they have a really low fight anyway.
Right.
So it's like no one's going to lose.
Well, I think that was just to keep you from grabbing it.
Exactly, but it keeps the person who's doing really well at grabbing it, and it also lowers the required amount of fight to defend against it because it gets set at whatever your fight is at that time.
Right.
And so there is ways around it, but if you get caught where maybe like you passed early and you thought you were really, and that's what happened.
Right.
Is everybody thought they were really far above me, but then everybody just passed, and I had I could do like 4 more actions, and I was just like bam, 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 grab the war. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't really see that being a big deal. It was a big deal in that game, that session.
Right.
But I don't really, what do you think?
I mean, I could see it being a problem in the future, but maybe we're a little bit more prepared for it. Maybe we see that getting fight is a little bit more important, whereas we thought maybe it wasn't. But again, you can offset that with your stability track, I believe.
That's true. Yeah, you got a stability, and when you suffer the effects of the war, it might say like you lose 7 food. 7 food is crazy. However, if your stability is a 5, you only lose 2. The difference is you will always lose a victory point for losing the war, which will add up quite a bit throughout the game because the scores, I mean, I think 40s is around like good.
Right.
For 4 players. I mean, obviously that might get better or worse depending on the number of players.
Yeah. Well, and that was something I wrote down was whenever you can't meet a war, the famine, which every round you have to give up food automatically. Yeah, feed your people. There might have been some other things that I just can't remember, but if you can't meet certain requirements, it's like an automatic victory point you're losing. This is why they start you with 7, I believe, is what you start with. I see why now, because it's easy to lose. You might not have gotten any throughout the game up to that point, but now you got to give some up. And I think if you don't have victory points to give up, it was even a bigger deal.
Well,
that wasn't. Maybe not.
I think if you're out of victory points, it's nothing. It's
okay.
The bigger deal comes with, I believe, anytime you can't fully pay the resource. So say you lose 7 food, but you can only pay 5 of it. You still have to pay the 5, but then you pay the last 2 that you didn't have, you pay in books. And I think the thing is, if you don't have books to pay, then you pay victory points equal to...
That's what I was thinking of. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew it got to a point where it hammered on you pretty hard.
Yeah, it never happened, but it could have.
Yeah.
So I didn't...
I guess my point was, the detrimental effects are pretty heavy in the sense that you're losing points and they're not getting handed out like candy.
Right. Yeah, you got to earn the points in this game.
They're hard to come by. I found out a little too late in the game how important the books were. Because you do every scoring round, which is on every other round.
Yeah.
They do the books, and you get victory points, like you said, equal to however many people ahead you are, or have behind you on the track, I guess. Another way to say it. So, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of stuff you got to really pay attention to. You got to get a good engine.
Yeah, that's
for what you're doing. I mean, it is involved, but like I said, it's weird that it feels just like the dice game.
It does. They did a good job of distilling the game into a dice game.
Oh, it's spot on.
Yeah, it's really, really well done. But yeah, the Nations game, it's great. I mean, I highly recommend it. Even if you don't like long games, your turns are so fast. You know, you don't do a whole lot on one turn. Right. I might place one guy, or I might take one card. But by the time I'm done thinking about what I just did, it's my turn again.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that.
Yep.
I like games where you do a lot on your turn as well, as long as the downtime, you know, a game can have downtime. I'm fine with that. But it has to have downtime that's meaningful. Like we were talking before, like the World of Warcraft board game. When it's not your turn, you don't care what the other team's doing. You're spending all your time planning.
Right.
So even if a game has downtime, I'm fine with it as long as they have tons of planning or things you can think of and stuff like that.
Oh, this keeps your mind busy.
Yeah, this keeps your mind busy. And you're like, man, don't take that. Because if he doesn't take that, then I can take this card. By the time you said all that, it's probably at least halfway through the round.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, sometimes that goes so fast. Because everybody's already prepared, a lot of the times, and they'll pick that. This person will put a worker out. This person just buys an architect. Bam, it's your turn again.
Right.
Literally that fast. So, very well done. Like I said, it's not like other Civilization games. Not that we played a ton of them anyway, but, it's not a dudes on the map kind of game where you build your cities and fight everyone.
Right.
It's a lot different. So, Nations is it's a win for me. I can't wait. I did get the expansion for it, the Dynasties expansion. adds a ton of double-sided player boards for different nations and a couple other cards and such. Not a whole lot, but it's got a lot of... This game does have a lot of replayability.
Oh, yeah.
Because even going through... That's the thing with Nations, the dice game, is like each age doesn't have tons of tokens, so you don't really see maybe 5 or 6 or something. It's very small. But in this, you literally go through like half the deck of each age.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many cards. It can really be bad sometimes for people if they didn't plan ahead and
right.
Get a certain card like the military units.
Or that's what happened to us. We got stuck behind. Once we saw what you were going to start doing, no more military cards came out for a long time.
Until the last round or something.
Yeah,
it
went
was bad.
and we couldn't get any way to help unless we devoted a bunch of workers and sacrificed getting resources and other things we need.
Yeah, and it's a bad payoff because like the card I had, I think I was getting like, was it 6 or 4?
6. Yeah, you were getting 6.
I was getting, well, maybe it was 4. No, maybe it was 6.
I thought it was 6.
It was 6. But I did have to pay something at the end of each.
Yes.
It had like an upkeep.
Mm-hmm.
Your other cards might have a lower cost, like it may be free. You don't know upkeeps, but it only gives you like 4 or 3.
Yes.
So for every worker you put down, I put down 1 worker and I get double the amount of attack power.
Right.
It's easy for me to jump ahead of everyone,
mm-hmm.
especially if you don't get, like you said, in the next age, if no military units come out, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, I feel like that was a kind of a one-off. It's a really weird situation that literally like 3 of the ages did not provide a lot of military units. That's just really bad shuffling, and I shuffle the cards.
No, I mean, it's
deck
nature.
was rigged, Matt.
Yeah, it's nature of the game. You don't know what's coming out. There was times I would gamble on certain things, hoping that a certain type of card would come out and it wouldn't show up. And it's like, well, okay, I kind of planned for this to come out and it didn't happen.
Yeah,
so,
thankfully there's probably do you feel like there was enough other things to do if that didn't happen? Other than the beginning of the game, because you so got flustered that Eric took
rattled. Yeah,
he took everything that Matt wanted to do.
Yeah,
Eric thought of.
He was one step ahead of me. Me and him saw the same thing, which I guess made me feel good because Eric tends to do good at them games, and we had the exact same game plan going. So
yeah,
no, usually like I was planning on having enough fight to take a country or colony or whatever it's the green cards.
Yeah, colonies.
Yeah, conquer a colony. None came out. So instead of...
Oh, yeah, those didn't come out either. We had bad shuffling.
Yeah,
or rigging of the deck.
So at the end of the round where you can take military meeples off to earn, books, I believe? You got the option to do that. Well, I kept
That was an event, right?
No, that was at the end of every scoring round.
What was this again?
You could take meeples off your military cards and earn books. Yes.
I'm pretty sure that was just one event. There's purple cards that happened at the end of each.
Oh, was it just okay?
It was just that one time.
This one event, I chose not to, hoping that a colony card would come out and I'd have enough fight to take it over.
And then nothing came out.
So I missed out on a bunch of books where you all were just like, take them all off.
Yeah.
If I don't need all this, I'll just spend stone and put them back on.
Yeah.
To get the books. And that I was pretty much in last on the books pretty much the whole time, not getting any victory points. So.
Yeah.
Stuff happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Great game.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to playing it again, and it plays up to 5, I believe. I don't know. I don't know if I really hate playing with that many people, but 3 and 4 is probably the best.
Yeah, I'd say that's the best. And like I said, even though I did so bad at it, that's fine. It was still fun.
Yeah.
I'll know what to look out for next time.
Well, if you like Nations the Dice game, highly recommend this. Don't be scared off by the length. I think that if you like the dice game, it's everything the dice game provides with no luck because all the dice are gone. And it's like they added 5 more expansions worth of content.
It's like the cards that come out. The cards that are coming out are the dice.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, I guess that's about as random as it gets.
Yeah. But I mean, you have a lot of options with that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah, there's a ton of options.
Anyway, that's Nations.